Well guys, I haven't had much time to get a whole lot of anything done. Started doing 7 days a week at work for a couple of weeks. That's finally ended, so I'm back to a somewhat normal schedule now. I haven't done much with the F600 4x4 project because of that. 70 hours a week kind of takes your toll on you, and you don't feel like doing much after work. And then one of my neighbors finally decided to replace his driveway, so I helped him tear that out. I've been helping a couple of friends with some of their projects. That's taken up a lot of my free time. So I figured I'd show you guys what I'm doing with the old concrete from my neighbor's house and show you some of the issues with my Insley H875 excavator that I've been putting off since I bought it. So let's go take a look at the old driveway. So this is all part of my neighbor's old driveway. I'm using this as a base for my new driveway. First 200 feet I put in, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Has nothing but busted up concrete like this in the bottom of it, followed by anywhere from 1 to 3 feet of sand, and then 21 AA crushed concrete. This part of it here I've actually tracked over it with the dozer. This was all sitting above the ground, and when you see dirt here in places like this, I actually pushed the concrete below the ground with the dozer. That dozer weighs in somewhere around 17,000, I think, 16,000. I figured it all out at one point in time. I got to go back through and redo it. But old busted up concrete makes for a good road or driveway base. I scraped all the topsoil off of this back before I did all that. Some spots there's inch, maybe 2. Other spots there's about a foot, foot and a half. You got to get rid of the topsoil so when it does rain it'll actually filter through. I still got a bunch of the gravel over at the neighbor's house I gotta pick up, and I'm gonna throw all that on here before I get into doing sand. And then I'm probably gonna have to get 1 or 2 dump truck loads of riprap to fill in this barren spot. It's right here where the excavator bucket is where I stopped with, well, where I started with the original riprap I had going out that way to the road. About 100 feet towards the road from here, my side yard was about 4 foot lower than the road, so it was wet no matter what. But when they come in and put gravel in on the driveway that is complete, it was in the spring thaw. And it rained for 2 weeks prior to that, and triaxle dump truck with 17 ton of gravel in it sunk about 1.5 inches in it, so I think she's pretty good. But, here's one of the problems. This excavator. When I bought this, the guy I bought it from said he had just replaced the swing bearing, which was a huge plus. I didn't have to deal with it. And well, unbeknownst to me, he replaced all the grade 8 fasteners with grade 5 that were about a ½ inch shorter than required. So it only grabbed about the first 2-3 threads of the turntable. So I got it off the lowboy uneventfully. And when I started tracking this in, well, down the road and into my driveway, you guys ever run an excavator, a lot of time it's just easier to stick the boom down, pick the machine up, and turn, and set the front of the machine back down and keep tracking, and just, it's a repeat process. Well, I was doing that, and I was halfway back into the driveway, and all of a sudden I heard a loud series of pops. It sounded like a firearm going off, and broke 16 out of the 32 turntable bolts that hold the house to the car body. That's one of the bolts. There's 2 more in here. There's one there, and I think there's one over here that hold the top cover onto this. This is your I forget the technical term of it, but it's your center bearing that transfers all of your hydraulic fluid power to the car body for running your tracks forwards and backwards. Well, it broke those off, shot that cap off, and I didn't have a side window in there, and I took a hot hydraulic oil bath in the middle of July, which wasn't fun. I got the cap for this flattened back out. I got to get those broken off bolts out. I got to disconnect. What is there? I think there's 7 or 8 hydraulic lines. 3 here, 4 there. So I can take that bottom plate out, rebend that so it's flat again. You see that down in there or not? The sun's giving kind of a glare. Whatever to replace these bolts, the other ones are still broke off. I guess I got to figure out a way to get those out. I got a couple of ideas. I started torching out some of the cracks. Rewelding that all back down. There's a bunch of cracks here on the underside of the car body. This thing's a oily, greasy mess. There's a bunch of crack comes right up through there, runs horizontal. Somebody's added in triangular gussets to it. Another one, they added this plate in. That's cracked all the way from there all the way down to the other side. I started fixing some of that stuff a couple of years ago. Brake assembly for it, the drive shaft. But because that center pivot is leaking oil out the top, it just drains down and covers everything down here. See that? That's all cracked and busted. Same thing. See that? Cracked right there in the center of the stringers they put on. All the way down. Cracked through one of the wannabe fish plates they stuck on. What a lot of people don't realize when I go through and they start fixing cracks on this stuff, you know, some guys say drill a hole at the end of the crack. I've never done that because technically you don't know where the end of that crack is. I have always taken a, depending upon the thickness of the material you're working with, either a cutoff wheel and go right down the center of that crack, and then you extend it anywhere between 2 and 4 inches beyond the start and the end of it, and you come back in with a 1/4 inch grinder and you lay it in here on its side at an angle, grind it all out that way, grind it all out that way, and then by doing that, because now you've gone from a nice thin cut and you're laying it out, you can start seeing if there's any other spider cracks in there, and then you chase those out and do the same thing. You know, if you're dealing with 3/4 or 1 inch plate steel or thicker, you take the cutting torch and cut a straight slot, and then come back through and cut a bevel on it, clean it up with a grinder, and weld it. Brake shoe material is still fairly thick, but with the oil on it, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. But I may get back out here for a couple of days and do some work on this, eat a bunch of fire, get burned up. You know, all the fun stuff about being a welder. But the positive side of this machine, this is a 1968 Insley H875, and this was before you know, link belt, Komatsu, Caterpillar, I think Case, John Deere. None of those guys got into, well, excavators until, what was it, I think it was 70 or 71. And back in the day, Insley's, Warner, Pot Clean, Hop Toes, Warner Swasey's, by Cyrus Erie, those were all the machines to have. They were the top of the line machines at the time. It's what was available. It's what was there. Everything prior to, again, 70 or 71 still had the old crane type undercarriage with the flat track pads. There were no grousers. They were all chain driven. So a lot of these are known as first generation hydraulic excavators, where the house was all hydraulic and the car body was all mechanical. So they're a go-between between the old cable operated machines of the 50s back to the early 1900s and the newer hydraulic excavators. So this was in my price range. I would love a newer excavator, but I can't afford the price tag. So it is what it is, and I'm willing to do the work to it. So I'll see if I can get something done with one of my irons and show you guys how it's going. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. If you guys haven't, head on over to Hodgepodge Dodge Garage with Zane. He's got some really good content. He keeps his channel pretty clean, which is a plus. This way everybody can watch it and you don't have to worry about your kids, or if you yourself don't particularly like certain language, it's not on there. Another guy to check out, if you guys are into OBS Fords, is James over at Third Coast OBS. He's got a, I think it's a 93 Ford F-150 Lightning that he's getting ready to do some performance modifications to, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that goes and what he does with it. So if you guys would, check those two guys out, and if you like what they do, well, comment and keep watching them. But thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.